and welcome to Schmidtless Live. I'm Kurt Schmidt, president at Foundry, and this show is meant to educate and inspire leaders in design and technology. I'm really excited today because I've got one of my good friends, Jennifer Zick from Authentic Brand, joining me. But before we get started, I have to do a little plug. I have to make sure that everybody remembers that we are hiring at Foundry, foundrymakes.com/careers. Go and check it out. We've got a lot of positions open and we're growing and we're excited about it. But I want to jump right in because I can't wait to talk to Jennifer. She's one of my favorite people. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
Hey, Kurt, I'm doing well. We're here. Audio visuals working.
It is.
I'm
Yep.
ready to go.
Yep. No technical problems. Who needs IT, right?
That's right.
We can handle this. So Jennifer, tell me about Authentic Brand. What's the work you do there? And it's been around for a while now, right?
Well, yeah, I guess we're probably moved from the startup phase to an established growing business phase. We're 3.5 years old now. So what Authentic Brand is we're a fractional CMO consulting firm. We work with established growing companies, usually between the 5 to 100 million in revenue size. And we bring them executive strategic marketing leadership that helps them overcome random acts of marketing and build strong, high-performing, revenue-aligned marketing teams and programs.
Awesome. So, it's really telling in today's time about that marketing leadership is probably more important than ever right now, right? Because we've got such an insane year. I mean, it's off the charts, right? I mean, besides the pandemic, the civil unrest that's going on out there, we've got an election year. We've got double hurricanes. We've got,
The list goes on. Yeah, raging fires in California.
Yeah, fires. I mean, the news cycle is so hard to keep up with. And myself personally, being a business owner, I think, for the last few months, I've really struggled content wise because you want to get stuff out that's important and meaningful to your brand, but in value to your customers. But there's really, you want to stay on tone, you don't want to sound off tone, you don't want to sound off message. I mean, that's where I feel like, making sure you've got strong marketing leadership is going to be really important, right? I mean, what have you seen people struggling with over the last few months when it comes to the marketing and the content side of things?
Yeah, well, I have to say the last few months have felt like a few lifetimes in so many ways. So the perspective on marketing right now is a really interesting and unique time because part of the reason I started my business, Authentic Brand, was not only to help great businesses overcome random acts of marketing, but to help great marketing executives build a career that they love, doing work that's meaningful. And we know that when times get tough and budgets get tough, marketing tends to be one of the first departments to be cost cut and to be reduced. And yet, now more than ever, having strong, thoughtful, strategic communication with every stakeholder included in your company's purview, right? Whether it's prospective clients, existing customers, partners, employees, prospective employees, it has never been more essential to have a clear and direct and yet thoughtful and nimble communication strategy guided by people who understand, how to navigate all of the potential crises, all the actual crises that we've been enduring and all of the continued change that's happening around us. So marketing has never been more necessary and more critical, and it's never been more in upheaval either.
Yeah.
So the opposing dynamics right now.
Yeah, and that's like I mentioned, the part that I've struggled with as a business owner is identifying, how to create a publishing schedule when the world's changing every 24 hours.
Yeah.
So much, and creating something, like you said, that's nimble, right? And because what I've experienced, at least in past organizations, right, is that you're creating a publishing schedule that's going out months and months and months and months. But that doesn't seem to work as well today's time, right?
No. And we've always subscribed to the notion at Authentic Brand that a marketing plan and all the elements of it, especially for growing businesses, needs to stay agile, right? Part of what we do, we have a methodology we call marketing traction that does provide for annual planning. You need that in order to ladder up to your business growth and your business objectives, with quarterly cadence of workshopping and planning based on what you learned and what we can forecast for the next 90 days. Like, that's just how we think about marketing, as a living, breathing, evolving plan based on insights and market dynamics, right? But this year more than ever, I mean, anybody who's feeling at a loss for what to do with their marketing budget and content strategy and planning needs to know that you're not alone. It's happening everywhere. I mean, in March in the US, when COVID really landed, everybody's 2020 business plan across the entire business, including marketing, really kind of went up into the air.
Yeah.
And we experienced authentic brand, and what we started to experience across our client accounts and in our ecosystem of connections has been very universal, which is a lot of businesses, obviously we've seen a range of businesses that have been like full shuttered, like just shut down by this
Right.
crisis. We've seen some businesses that experienced kind of a short-term stall out, and then some, are kind of navigating a new growth pattern. And then we've seen other businesses be accelerated based on the changing demands of the consumer marketplace and the world right now, right? So, but regardless of where they are on that spectrum of like shut down or accelerated, everybody's communications and content plan and marketing budgets had to be quickly and completely adapted.
Right.
And so the way that we've seen that play out, and it's been true in our own business as well, is that we went from an initial period of holding our breath, like literally we don't know what to say or how to say it right now.
Right.
Plus, we're all trying to become, we're all trying to move virtual and get people resettled, right? So there was that period of holding our breath and not really saying much of anything, to recognizing the need to have a voice and navigating that day by day based on the changing dynamics. And of course, everybody's content went straight to COVID, right? In those first couple of weeks, like we're here for you, we're in it together. COVID was the subject line of the day. And then we all exhausted that. And then, so we moved from kind of a day-to-day content strategy to maybe a week-by-week content strategy.
Yep.
And now what we're seeing is companies are starting to feel like, okay, maybe we can do a month. We can kind of commit to what's happening this month.
Sure.
While we think about, like, long-term went from being a year to 2 years view to being 90 days. That's long-term right now.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Right. Well, and I want to get, because you're a marketing guru, what's working these days? Again, with everybody virtual, we're all online. We're online so much, right? Zoom fatigue, the whole shebang, right? Everything's going on online. And so, do you see that certain pieces or certain content initiatives are working better than others? What's a good pro tip that you can, slide under the table for me, Jennifer?
Yes. Well, and I'll pull from what I'm seeing across our clients are all across industries, B2B, channel distributor models, and B2C. And B2C has definitely seen a lot of kind of fast activation, and some B2B in this time as well. Everybody's had to pivot to virtual. I'll tell you what we see is working, even in our own business. We had, coming into 2020, plans to launch 2 different local event models.
Yep.
For our 2 core audiences. When COVID hit, we didn't know what we would do with those plans. They were stacked and ready to go, and they would have been live events launching in the spring. So we took a moment of pause, and then we decided to pivot them. And what made that successful and is really growing well for our business is that those events were already strategized to meet a specific audience with a specific kind of value proposition.
And
right?
all the content was ready, the curriculum, everything, the speakers, everything was all set.
That was not set. That was not set. In fact, for us, what we've created wasn't so much pushing content and speakers and talking at people. For us, what we had created were some online communities that bring people together to break out into small groups, to connect with each other, to network, to share experiences and learnings. And those 2 event programs have turned out to be really powerful emotionally for the attendees, and powerful in terms of creating meaningful business connections right now. Even amidst Zoom burnout, we've seen growing and increasing engagement in these event formats that are large group with small group breakout opportunities that are meaningful, not only in the content and the conversation, but meaningful at the human connection level right now when people feel so separated. So, and the other thing that's working from a content perspective is that we're seeing a lot of businesses move away from content that's only about the crisis and the response to the crisis, and is starting to be as forward-looking as we can be while being sensitive to the world that we're living in.
Sure.
So most of our clients are starting to come back to a content calendar where they're creating thought leadership that's relevant for their stakeholders, that's meaningful and helpful, but still contextualized. It's not ignorant of all the changing dynamics going on in the world, right?
Yeah.
So it has that embedded, but that's not the headline. So we're seeing a lot of positive momentum to just let's move forward as best as we can with the way that we bring value into the world.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I think, again, you and I have talked about this in the past. I mean, I think delivering value is delivering value, but if the road is blocked, you've got to figure out a new path, right, to continue to deliver that value. If you can't have 100 people in a room doing a coaching seminar or something like that, then you've got to you've got to shift, right?
You have to. Your brand has to keep showing up. I was just having a conversation with another executive this morning who leads a marketing recruiting firm.
Yeah.
We were talking about the fact that if brands aren't sharing content, if their voice is not actively engaged in the market right now, people might think you're out of business. There's a lot of right? I mean, how do you show up? How do you keep showing up with confidence, with hope, with thought leadership, authority, and sensitivity? You got to keep showing up. Now, how you do it is going to have to be creative right now, because everything you had in plan is turned over, right? So you've got to keep resourcing. And a lot of businesses are making the mistake, and I say this confidently, it is a mistake to just look at marketing as a place to cut costs right now and to slow down activity.
And it's a common place that people do that, right? I mean, it's usually one of the first things to go. And I not only internally, but other agencies and things I've seen, that support these larger groups have just seen huge cuts happening because people are, and is it just because, why does that happen? I mean, you can't stop selling unless you're going to go out of business, but why do people feel like that's a okay place to make cuts, or do they not see the value in it?
I wish I had a really good answer for this, but history has repeated itself when it comes to marketing, decision making, and funding in organizations. And yet the data tells us, the data through multiple recession cycles tells us that the companies that did not divest in marketing, that did not pull back, were faster to rebound and grew with more health than those who held back and cut costs. Like, we know that that's true. And yet the knee-jerk reaction in crises and when cash flow conversations are really real is to say, well, everything we invest in marketing has such a long-term view, right? Like, marketing is not about how do we close what's in the pipeline right now. Marketing is about how do we cast a vision and engagement for the future growth, right? Yep. And so, just yesterday, I had a really honest conversation with another CEO of a $10 million business, or at least it was a $10 million business last year, that, of course, has experienced some losses. The sector that they serve has been hard hit, but the solutions that their business offers could be relevant in some adjacent sectors, right? They could take their existing content and solutions, market it into some very closely connected sectors that are actually thriving right now and that aren't hard hit.
Yep.
And by doing that, they could shore up and protect and start growing into a business area that potentially puts them ahead of their competitors who are holding back on investing right now.
Yep.
But it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing to make that investment.
It really is.
You know what every CEO and every CFO wants? They want to know with confidence that every dollar that I put into the marketing engine is going to produce X
It's the
dollars
ROI discussion, right?
By X timeline. Anybody who's promising you that ever, don't believe them. And anybody who's promising that to you right now, be very afraid. None of us have a crystal ball on this. None of us know if the rebound in our marketplace is going to be smooth and steady, or if we're going to experience some major fall-offs. We're in an election year. There's so much unknown. Yep. But what I do know, what's been statistically proven true is that the brands who invest in marketing during these downturns are in a better position to be healthy, rebound faster, and grow stronger, and have more trust in their brand coming out the other side, because they didn't stop bringing themselves to market and building goodwill and building trust. Right. I mean, trust is the most valuable currency your brand can be building right now, and you cannot do that in a vacuum, in silence. We know
by staying silent, right?
You can't do that. I mean, imagine if you were leading Foundry right now and not providing regular updates to your team. Are they going to, would they assume the best or would they assume the worst?
The worst.
The worst.
I'd
Yes.
assume the worst.
Yes. There's never been a better time to over communicate, over serve, find ways to build goodwill with your current
Right.
clients and to foster goodwill with those who, when they are ready to buy, they'll be thinking of you.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Jennifer. So moving to that, because you just mentioned that conversation with that CEO about how they could pivot some of their ideas and things. I mean, I think that's again, going back to the importance of having some marketing leadership involved. And one things that I've learned about marketing over the years is, and the thing that, when you and I have talked about this and I've struggled with this, is that you've kind of, in the marketing space, you've got kind of two sorts of people. You've got executioners and you've got strategists.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to find somebody who does both. And you probably don't want somebody who does both, because you want somebody to be focused on either or of those things. I mean, when you're looking for a marketing leader, somebody to maybe join your crew, or, in the past when you've hired marketing leaders, I mean, what are some of the characteristics and things you're looking for? What are you looking for in the resume? Let's talk to some of those marketing people that are out there, maybe looking for work, that might be listening to this show right now. What's some of your advice to those people in how to best promote them, market themselves?
Yeah. Okay. You asked a couple questions in that question, so I'll try to unpack all of them. Yes. So I'll start with what is it that we hire for at Authentic Brand, and then I'll talk a little bit about advice for marketing leaders in general right now who might be looking for work. So at Authentic Brand, our model is unique. We're a fractional CMO organization. We hire senior marketing leaders who have 15 plus years of executive strategic leadership marketing experience as a senior director, VP, or CMO, proven chops for building programs and teams that drive strong returns. So that established leadership reputation. And it's not just that work history that makes a great fit for Authentic Brand, but because we're fractional leaders who are on contract for our clients over a long-term relationship. Most of our CMOs work for our clients for 12 to 24 months, 15 to 20 hours a week, very committed and very immersed in the client business. But we are still contracted consultants and leaders, right? So while we're in there, owning that brand, building that team, bringing the right team members to the team and the right agency partners and getting it all bundled together underneath the business strategy, we also are outside consultants and advisors to the executive team. And so for Authentic Brand, our CMOs need to be excellent marketing executives and leaders, but they also need to be really strong consultants. They cannot be yes people who,
Right.
The CEO or the head of sales says we need to do this, and now we just go make it
Or we've
happen.
always done it this way, so just do it the way we did it before.
That's right. We are change agents who need to have a strong opinion at the table, a well-informed opinion. But we're hired because the business leaders that we work with and that we partner with know that they have a strategic marketing leadership gap, and that's the gap we're there to fill while we build a strong team, right? So to your point, all of our CMOs are excellent strategists. That's their job. They all also are good at various elements of execution. We work with small, mid-sized businesses, which means we roll our sleeves up and we get in. But we get in only so far as to know who's the right person to bring in to keep that going, right? So we can constantly be elevating the strategy and enabling the execution with the right resources. So that's the story of Authentic Brand. Now, for marketers, here's what I would encourage for those in the marketing community. First of all, I'll just put in a little plug saying, we've created a space for you. If you're a senior marketing leader, whether you are currently employed or you're in transition, we would love for you to join our online large group, small breakout group called Sanctuary. So in partnership with Laura King and Meredith Urich, both amazing marketing network leaders in the Twin Cities area, we recognized early on in the COVID crisis that marketers were going to be greatly impacted, whether that meant through staff reductions or through the increasing pressure of guiding a brand through a crisis. And so we kind of co-op together to create this community that meets once a month to support and encourage one another and to remind ourselves that we are not the only ones experiencing this.
Yeah.
So first of all, you have a place. If you're not plugged in somewhere, come join us. And those events are all listed on the authenticbrand.com website.
Cool. I'll put links in the show notes too.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I would say you've never been more important and critical. So if you've lost your role, I'm really sorry. That feels personal, and it's not personal right now.
Yeah.
Don't lose hope. The world needs great marketers. This might be, for some of you, the perfect time to feel like you're ready to take the wheel and take a little bit more control of your career and move into independent work or into a consulting type of a role. But for others, I understand you need a corporate paycheck and you need the full stack benefits. You need all of that infrastructure as well. I think that the market is going to wake up before too long to the need to have strong marketing resources. It might mean that you need to, if you're a very, senior strategic person, be willing to take on some execution work in the short term. That was the conversation I was just having with the recruitment leader this morning.
Okay.
She was saying, she gets a lot of candidates coming her way that very senior marketing leaders who expect to make over $200 an hour. And those are the roles that they have come to expect. And her perspective is that those roles probably are not going to be available for the next 9 to 12 months.
Sure.
So, maybe this is the time to dust off some of your execution skills, learn a new tool, learn a new channel, learn a new strategy, and certainly start working on building your personal brand. That's a topic I'm really passionate about. Using LinkedIn and finding your authentic voice that's, get your voice unburied from the corporation that you've represented and find your own voice in the world. That's what's going to keep you really being an asset through all the cycles of change that marketers tend to face in their careers.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, the personal brand, the marketing side of things, because I've been doing a lot of job coaching this year with folks who find themselves out of work. And honestly, and this isn't a dig on anybody, but the marketers are sometimes the worst at marketing themselves.
Yes, it's true.
And they've got great stories about ways that they've impacted businesses and all these things. But then, is it going back to what you said? I mean, I think, having peers and having that community is super helpful to that part, right?
Yes. Here's why. So when I first started so I have to concur. It has shocked me in the 3.5 years of building Authentic Brand, how so many marketers struggle to advocate and tell their own stories and build their personal brands. But I did a little soul searching on my own self on this regard. So my career actually started more in sales than in marketing. Sales management, and then eventually I was responsible for all of sales and marketing. And then as I was growing my family, I took a detour just to marketing so I would have a little more capacity personally, and then building marketing teams. And that was how I ended up as a marketing leader. So I've had both sides of that revenue coin in my background. And because I had been in sales, I think I have a little bit more natural storytelling kind of built into the sales side of my personality. But I will say that after many years of being a marketing leader and having moved from a sales role where I was client facing and in the conversation with clients all day long to moving to, kind of a back office marketing leadership role for many years, the only story I told was the story of our brand and the story of the executive leaders that I was helping their stories, positioning them for awards and recognition. And it becomes really hard to feel like you have permission to promote yourself as a marketer because you've been trained to promote other brands and other leaders.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that because it's all it's different muscles, right?
It is. And the other thing I experienced when I first launched Authentic Brand, I knew that I was going to have to create content. I was going to have to write blogs. I was going to have to put my thoughts out in the world because on day one, Authentic Brand was just me. And I was scared to death. And writing comes naturally to me. Speaking comes naturally to me. But I was scared to death the day that I published my first blog and shared it on LinkedIn, having founded Authentic Brand, because I was certain that the world was going to find out I didn't know what I was talking about. Imposter syndrome is real. And you called me a marketing guru, and that makes me really blush because I'm not. Marketing and sales have been my career, and marketing is my business. But I know the older I get, I know how much I don't know. There's more that I don't know than I do know. And we get inside of our own heads and we look at other people's thought leadership and they look so smart and they know things we don't know. And it can really weigh us down. But what I've learned is that the more that I'm willing to put my voice into the world, my whole authentic voice, not just my thought leadership. In fact, my articles get a handful of likes. But when I share moments from life or celebrating the people that I care about on my team, when I share moments is when we really get a lot of engagement. And so that's part of my whole talk track on personal branding is it's not just about what you know, it's about who you are, all the facets of that.
Yeah, and it's advice I've given people like on their resumes and other things because people are just like you said, they're kind of always like, why me? Why would somebody be interested in what I have to say? Um, but to your point, if you're posting as a marketer looking for work, some great content, some things like that. I mean, when I go to look to hire a marketer or bring a marketer on, and I see that this is what I get, and not just the list in the resume, right, of like what you did at the past jobs, but I can see what you're actively doing
Yeah.
in, like you said, in LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, I don't care. But
Yeah.
I can actively see how you're, and I can almost get a glimpse into what I'm hiring, right? If you're kind of living the marketing sort of work, right?
That's right. That's right. And the fact is, like when we bring people onto our team as CMOs, that is one thing I'm looking at is not only like how robust was their leadership background and the brands they represented and how's that company's story, but like what is their social media profile?
Yep.
Are they active? Are they engaged? Are they cultivating relationships? Are they sharing and building rapport and trust with people? Did they represent their previous brands
Right.
with enthusiasm? Because then I know they're going to represent our brand with enthusiasm. And
Right.
honestly, that's not been something that has been natural or right or frequent to find.
Yeah.
It's and I can't even tell you of our team, all exceptional marketers. Many of them still aren't active on LinkedIn themselves. They
Sure.
can run the most robust programs for our clients, but they themselves are still, so we do a lot of talking at Authentic Brand and a lot of coaching into the value of your personal brand
Yeah.
and what that means, not just for the business you represent, but yourself, how you represent yourself in the world.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. So I want to circle back to, the content and the publishing, the
Mhm.
schedule real quick before we sign off. But one thing, again, if you were to give a piece of advice to people right now, what I'm hearing you say is don't plan these super long term sort of things. You need to get more agility in your marketing, which is something that can be a bit scary, right? If you don't
Yeah,
know what you're publishing on the blog 2 weeks from now or things like that, like it can feel a bit like you're on shifting sands, but you're already there, right? So
right.
get used to it. I mean, what tips have you found that help marketers when they are on those shifting sands, feeling more comfortable, more confident in adjusting their calendars and their publishing schedules? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah. Well, my first most basic advice is don't go quiet. Don't stop doing because you're not sure of exactly what you should be doing, right? When COVID hit, a lot of people had to unwind all of their current campaigns that were running and their automations that no longer were relevant. In fact, they were often tone deaf and offensive, right? A lot of infrastructure, heavy lifting, hard work, and really thoughtful planning had to be undone. And that's
Yeah.
discouraging. So don't let that discouragement defer you from doing what you need to still do. Like you've got to keep showing up. Your brand has to keep having a voice. So even if that takes a different tact or has less resourcing behind it, you got to keep doing. So for us, as an example, we just committed that we were not going to pull back from our monthly blog publishing schedule, right?
Yep.
That budget for the work that the person who helps me with the writing and the editorial process stayed intact. I said, we're going to at least do that. And it's okay if I don't know what the topic is until the week that I'm interviewed.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know, but we'll come up with something. And we did, and we have, right?
Yep.
We are now coming back online to reboot our online monthly newsletter because we just didn't have enough purview to know what to put into a monthly, but now we're
Sure.
getting
Well,
there.
back to your point about delivering value, right?
That's
If you
right.
don't have something of value, don't push it out just because
That's
you
right.
push it out, right?
That's right. We have beta tested these a couple of event formats, and they've been valuable to audiences. So we've now we went from doing a month to see what people think to saying, okay, we'll book event dates through the rest of this year so we can start planning for speakers and other things. To now we're going to roll out a whole 2021 calendar of monthly events. Now, does that mean that we might not keep tweaking the event format as we go? We probably will, right? Maybe at some point next year, it makes sense to introduce a live regional event. We're not going to
Yep.
we're not going to say no to any new insights that help us get better, but we are going to start making some longer term commitments. And we're now finally going to get back to thinking about, we're even going to have a theme. We're going to start doing content theming for the quarter and kind of think ahead about our monthly blogs.
Right.
So we're just kind of tiptoeing back in, saying we're going to keep our minds open, our ears open, our eyes open. We're going to stay connected to other business leaders and marketers and make sure that we feel like we have a pulse on the world. And then we're going to start making some commitments so that we can plan and feel sane.
Right. Some normalization, right?
A little bit is good. It's good.
Yeah. So would your advice be, it sounds like your advice would kind of be the same for those people looking for work too, right? Is don't stop marketing, market yourself, right? Don't stay quiet, right?
Yes. Don't stay quiet. Don't stop marketing, and don't stop experimenting with the models and the channels and the delivery types that are going to work right now in the world we're in. Video is huge right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So video messaging, short snippets, engaging, it feels personal. It doesn't always have to be highly produced, but there are times when it's going to be really worth it to produce something highly produced, right? So question everything. Right now is a perfect time to question everything. And what I said to the CEO I talked to yesterday is that looking ahead to 2021, it's going for marketing teams. It's what's going to be more important than knowing what we will do is to start to make some real strategic decisions about what we will no longer do. Sure. This is the time to shed the dead weight of the way things have always been done.
Yep.
To question everything and to be in an environment that welcomes change. Everybody is welcoming change right now because we're all making changes. This is your time to experiment thoughtfully.
Yep. No, that's great, Jennifer. Well, such great advice. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join me on the show today. If I want to know more about Authentic Brand and the work you do, I'll have links in the show notes, but where should I go? Where's a great place, Jennifer?
Well, of course, to our website, authenticbrand.com. That's all one word, singular. And I personally would love to hear from anybody who hears the show and has a question or a thought or can say, yeah, I can relate to that. And so they can find me on LinkedIn, Jennifer Zick. Pretty easy to find, I think. I'd love to hear from people and to be a resource any way that we can be during this time.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Kurt. It's always great to hang out with you.
Yes. All right. So closing out the show, I just wanted to make one more pitch because we are hiring. foundrymakes.com/careers. Thank you, Jennifer Zick. You can check out, I'll have links in the show notes once the video is done processing after the live show. Thank you for joining me. This week, we're also going to be talking some more sales and marketing. And then next week, we're going to be continuing our series on, how to find a job, how to best promote yourself, how to use LinkedIn, how to get a job, because, for me, I'm very passionate about helping people who are out of work right now. There's so many people that are struggling. And, I want this show to be a place where they can feel safe to come and ask the dumb questions. There's no dumb questions. We're all figuring this out as we go along. So thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.